Hello, welcome. This is it. This is what we've been waiting for 2 weeks, or more like sort of 12-ish days, but still 13 really. This is it. This is Sunday League Virtual returning for the first ever Polish Grand Prix selected by Rito. Now that is, in case you weren't aware, as we have a look at our qualifying session, a wet start here today at Zmosh. That is a rule in Sunday League Virtual. The winner of the Drivers' Championship, as we go past the Undertale corner into the chicanes now, the AI like to dance through at a very low speed, probably the slowest corner on the calendar, not long after we visited Monaco, which also had the notorious hairpin there as well. The Drivers' Champion for a season is allowed to essentially sign a 1-year contract with a track for the next season, any track from their home nation that has officially made AI lines from Nuno II himself. Really interestingly, Vladinator is in third position, which would be an amazing grid spot for this SFR driver, but we still have 2 laps of qualifying to go, and the track is drying out. We'll have to see, do lap times improve? Eurus does not, nor does Jake, nor does Vlad. Andres, it looks like, did. Grandy did. Sobel did. Rito as well. Julo did not. Menica did. Light rain coming back, but that shouldn't change the water level at the moment. Interesting, though, to just have it fluctuating a little bit. Kamikaze improved to a 36.8. That puts him 11th on the grid, which I believe would be Fuerza Roja's highest ever starting position in Sunday League Virtual. We'll have to see how these front pack of drivers can do. They really like to take liberties at that final corner. The track is properly drying, and Eurus slams in another quali lap. That will have to be pole position, and it looks like his teammate will accompany him on that front row of the grid. We'll just have a look back at the very back here and see what we can see. But at the top, it's Eurus 4/10 ahead of his teammate Jake Brad. That is pole position for the Portuguese driver. BAV lock out the front row. Vladinator third. Grandy in fourth, a very solid starting position for him. Andres in fifth. Then we've got the 2 BFXs, Sobel and Rito, 6th and 7th. Hetmenica and Julo in the Porsches start 8th and 9th. Speed cars, this might be a track that they're not necessarily going to be that powerful, because you can lose a lot of time through those tight corners. Kubo takes 10th place, and Kamikaze in Fuerza Roja's best ever qualifying 11th position on the grid. What a lap that is. Game on Goose, a winner last time, 12th place for him. Bluebell 13th, he was on the podium too. Hernandi 14th, Spuda 15th, Jaruni, Pit Crew 16th and 17th. Anti 15 positions behind his teammate. He'll start from 18th place on the grid. Ekolowski 19th, and Apple Amazing 4 seconds off the pole position time set by Eurus. We'll have to have a quick look through at all of our little statistics, because boy oh boy do we have a fair few. The upgrades coming into the race and the general standings of things. You can see a bit of a trend here. BAV and BFX very nearly out of tokens themselves after this week. SFR after this week, with Vladinator perhaps spending some tokens, will be completely out, so that'd be very interesting to see. Porsche, VLO, FER and THX all have a fair amount left. WTech have slightly more. They're looking strong favourites for third place, if not second. 7 more tokens than BFX. That could close that 40-point gap pretty easily. And the final 2 teams, Fuerza Roja and KRT, both have the most, tied 14 tokens left to spend, but simultaneously the worst cars. So we'll have to see how that progresses along. SFR currently overperforming with a car that is not currently as strong as anyone, right down to THX in 8th place in the championship. Will be really interesting to see that. You might put that down to their investment in areas that aren't turbo. But here it is, the tokens for today. Rito spends 2 at his home Grand Prix. He'll start 7th on the grid, out qualified by his teammate Sobel, spending no tokens. In wet qualifying especially, we can see it's a bit more random, so you can have things like that happen. Kubo spends 2 tokens, only 10th for him. His teammate Bluebell spending none, 13th. Spuda is outside the top 10 with no tokens. Andres, 2 tokens, starts in 5th. And Andy with 3 tokens will start in a relatively respectable 14th place, although not quite ideal for that many tokens to be spending. but still, he could be looking for KRT's first points of the season, have an amazing drive through the field like Ikolowski had last time at the Italian Grand Prix, scoring Fuengirosa's first points in Mugello. None for Jake, who starts second. 2 for Eurus, takes pole. 2 for Hetmanica, and none for Julo. They start line astern, 8th and 9th position. Then we've got 4 spent by Grandy and 2 spent by Pit Crew, which would explain, well, Grandy, not Pit Crew though. 2 tokens spent for him. He starts 17th. That's incredibly poor, to be honest. He'll be looking to make up a lot of positions to get into that top 10 if ThunderX feel like they have the car to do so. Vladinator will spend 2 tokens and he spends none. Goose and Jaruni both spend none, relatively respectable qualifying for them, and Kamikaze will start up in 11th place after spending 4 tokens today. You'd back his chances to score their second points of the season. He might be fighting Hanandi for it. We've got a fair few people spending tokens today. It is, of course, Rito, Kubo, Andres, Hanandi, Eurus, Hetmenica, Grandi, Pit Crew, Vladinator and Kamikaze. Half the grid exactly. Very, very quickly we'll have a look at the driver's standings. Jakey leads the way, 108 points for him. Eurus now second in the championship, just behind him, 85 points. Sobel there as well. Anti, Goose, Julo, the Bluebell, Andrew, Spooder and Rito are your top 10 in the standings. Having a look at the teams, BAV leading the way quite dominantly. That's all for the pre-race build-up. We're very, very nearly ready to get going here at Zamość. We're underway. Eurus immediately cuts off his teammate going into the first corner. That is a pretty dicey move there. Vladinator looking to maybe have a half look up the inside. Can't quite do anything just at the minute. Grandy and Andres battling behind with Sobel still in the mix. Jake all there too. Vlad, Grandy, Sobel, Andres, Rito and Julo going side by side here. The 2 Polish drivers. This should be really fascinating to see here on lap 1. Eurus looking to run away at the moment. Can Sobel craft the move on Jake? No, he goes wide and Andres gets a penalty for forcing Grandy off. Grandy doesn't get too much slowdown, but look at all those drivers taking liberties into that main straight. Very, very wide piece of track there. Eurus starts to run away, but Vladinator, his old pal, going to be chasing him down. Jake, then Sobel, big hairpin there, and it's Andres who benefits the most off it. He went right down the inside, took some positions. He's still in 5th place. Kamikaze up to 9th already. He's made up a couple of spots at the beginning. 2 Vladinator looks to be going for the lead. Eurus starts on the hards. He gets a poor run out the last corner. Can Vlad manufacture something not into turn 1 or turn 2 as they wind through here? Can he do anything up into the left hand? It's very peculiar runoffs you'll see at this track, but that is just part of the local culture. Vlad needs to clear the BAV of Eurus as soon as he can. Obviously a huge car deficit. BAV probably nearly twice as fast as SFR in all areas, but that soft tyre is a very, very solid tyre when you're travelling in a straight line. And Vlad still looking at half chances into the chicane, nose to tail with him. Can he finally get the move done to the outside at the last corner? Can he sweep it to turn 1 into the lead? Yes, he can. Vladinator leads the Polish Grand Prix. It's Sobel right behind the podium running pack. We're going to have some early rain here, light rain, and it's going to be should be interesting to see which drivers benefit, which drivers don't. AI tends to be more on the side of wanting to pit over not wanting to pit. We see Apple Amazing in last place there. Eurus isn't going to make those hards really worth their while because they have much more wear than the 4 laps they're going to be given. Will we have a collision-free pit lane? The pack is already actually pretty spread out. Vlad comes out on the inters, Eurus on the wets. That's a bit of split strategy. Jake on the wets as well. Sobel on the wets, Grandy and Kubo, and Andres on the inters. Bluebell on the wets. Then it's Pit Crew on the inters. Nandi on wets, Komi on inters, Goose on inters, Jaruni on inters, Hetmenica, Anti and Rito 2. The final cars come in and the entire back part of the grid choosing the inters. But the tyre strategy, not Ikolowski actually, has gone for the wet tyre. The tyre strategy really fascinating to see here. A lot of drivers thinking the inters not particularly worth it. If the rain gets heavier, then the rain is going to much more tend towards that wet weather tyre, but Eurus already makes a mistake going through that early bit of the track. And you can see there's a lot of flat out section. That's where the, believe it's now 7 speed of the BAV is going to be really, really crucial to help out, but the grip is very important through some sectors of the track. We'll check in with our wet weather runners, Jake Brad and Sobel, third and fourth. Sobel looking to maybe fall into the clutches of Grandy, who has not stood on the podium since, I believe, the first race of Season 2 at Buenos Aires. So, yeah, he's looking for a bit of redemption perhaps here today. We've got fights at the back already. Some people who have just dropped off the pace, but Vladinator follows Urist, and that is our front two at the moment. Sobel and Andries right behind him. It's Grandy. Andries looks to the inside for a move, and the rain will increase in intensity. This is going to come into the hands of those who did choose the wets, and Sobel might be looking at more confidence here. Grandy looked to have a really good opportunity to make a move up the inside, but Sobel immediately dances back round the outside. Andries has half a look up into the chicanes and gets the move done. That's an incredible bit of driving from one Dutchman to another, and Grandy is forced all the way off. The light rain is coming back. Will we get enough heavy rain for there to be so much standing water on the track? It will not dry quick enough for the even light rain conditions to disperse it. Andries and Sobel still going at it. This is a really, really great bit of track for the AI to fight into. Andries loving a move up there. Can Grandy and Bluebell fight it out? Looks like they will. Just in the back there, Grandy drops off slightly. Clouds are coming back. Oh, they all run wide at that corner. It's tricky, tricky one in the wet weather, and that's why you do need the grip. Bluebell to the outside. They were all squished onto the off track there. Sobel and Bluebell take a big bit of slowdown, and Andries rushes through, but he's still going to make some mistakes. Meanwhile, Jake has been chasing down Vlad, with the track being very, very wet at the moment, and look at the control. He has the car under his toes. He's just going to be absolutely zooming in on him. Can he go right to the back? Might Ikolowski be a factor here? Jake's old teammate. Wouldn't think he'd be looking to do Jake any favours, but he doesn't particularly get in the way of them there. He sort of shuffles off to one side. Vlad makes a big error, and the AI do not like some of these corners in wet running conditions. You get a big slowdown when you go onto those slightly hypnotic blue and dark grey lines. Urist still out in the lead, looking to take the win here. Second win of the season after he took victory at the Hungaroring by not a lot over his teammate and Julo. Sobel still in contention. It's Bluebell behind Andries, Grandy, Nandi, Kamikaze looking for Fuerza Roja's second points of the season. Pit crew just outside. He's already made up 6 positions. He's going to need to make up more to justify spending 2 tokens. Rito in, but that's a really good start from him in fairness, especially in not an excellent car. We'll have a look back at the fight for 6th place. It's Andries, it's Bluebell, it's Grandy, and this has been the main scrap going on so far. If we have a look at the tokens once again, because that is something that we can in fact do. Andries is spending 2 tokens today. Grandy is spending 4, so Andries will have to do a very, very good job to be keeping that car behind him. And Bluebell not spending any tokens, but it's a pretty solid car all around that VLO, and that's going to be good for him. Kubo demonstrating that he's in 4th place at the moment. Jake is in to the pit lane, as is Ikolowski, but he's a lap down. Sobel in as well. Andries also makes his move in. Apple Amazing and Hanandi, who are just running down. Well, Apple's a lap down from his teammate. Kamikaze is a lap up from his, who's just a little up the road, having just been lapped by Jakey. Urist comes into pit a lap later. Did he struggle in that final sector? On the worn tyres, he gets hugely held up by Het. That's not the first time that we've seen that happen, but Vladinator also stayed out a lap. And the battle between Kubo, who had most likely held up Jake, really, even with Urist's slow exit from the pit box there, means he's gotten away absolutely scot-free, as has Vladinator, who now has a 2-second gap on Jake, who is looking very, very close towards the end of that stint, and he's already making back up the time. The tyre advantage of the softs versus the mediums is also going to be helping that one out. Urist still leads us away here in Jamosh, and it's Vladinator, Jake Brad behind him. Sobel, Grandy, Bluebell. Let's see any battles down here. It's Hanandi lapping Spooder at the moment, having a terrible race down in 19th place. WTech looked really promising in the early season, but their car has just receded back into the midfield, and you can see nothing particularly special in these performances where they're not spending tokens, and Andries spending 2 tokens, albeit trying to fight a man spending 4, and he does get through up the inside of that right-hander. That is a very, very nice overtake indeed. Vladinator has been passed by Jake, who's on a faster tyre. Can Vlad kick up an extra gear and try and take that position back, hold up his old pal, old boy Jakey? Doesn't look like it at the moment. And Andy's still just chasing down. Kubo has to get through on Ikolowski. Kubo on the Inters massively held up Jake. We didn't actually get a whole view of that in-lap, but whatever it must have been, it really put him at a disadvantage, because despite those ahead of him overcutting, it just didn't work out particularly for Jake. We could see his difficulties getting through the final corner right at the end of that lap. Vlad has managed to close that gap just a little bit. Are the mediums starting to look better than the softs, which are definitely wearing out at the minute? Vlad, can he use a bit of tactical boost into the corner? He's slightly later off the boost. He's closed the gap to 0.32. Is it going to be any shorter by the time they reach the hairpin? Vlad didn't get the best run through there. Don't think he got the rotation he would have liked out that corner, and he's lost a few tenths to Jake. Urist absolutely running away with it today, and Jake could become the second driver in the history of SLV to take a podium without spending any tokens. His teammate Urist managed that. It was a P2 for him at Paul Ricard, with absolutely not a sausage spent in the way of it. Vladinator still looking to chase down Jake. Goose right on his tail. Goose and Jake. Yeah. Sobel and Bluebell behind. We've got a pretty spaced out pack at the moment. Not much fight for position. Rito and Pit Crew massively off there, and they cut that corner, which really didn't help actually. They're being lapped by Urist in first place. This doesn't slow him up too much hopefully, but Rito in what is still a pretty fast BFX, nowhere near as dominant as it was last season. You have to consider it to be a sort of 2022 Mercedes, and that they can still pull in a good performance on their day, and that's why you see that's why you can see drivers like Sobel still challenging up in 4th position at the moment, with not too many cars around him. We'll need a bit more rain to shake this one up at times. Jake has come in for some fresh softs. If the rain starts now, that would be very beneficial for the Russian driver in 2nd place, looking for his first podium since he is the driver in the league with the longest interval since his last podium. He hasn't stood on it since round 2 of season 1. The Belarusian Grand Prix at Brest, the first one ever, was very narrowly won by Grandy, currently running in 5th place. Vladinator for the SFR team clutched 2nd place there, and was pretty devastated to miss out on what would have been his only career win. But since then, we've had 25, no, it can't quite be that, can it? No, something like 23 races, and not a single podium for him. Antti, funnily enough, took his podium last race, which is the team's first podium in season 2 or season 3, as we see Vlad come up to lap his teammate. And their last podium before that, SFR as a team, was in season 1 at the South African Grand Prix, the season finale, in which Antti won the race and Urist won the championship. Kubo chasing down Grandy at the moment. Grandy on marginally older tyres. We saw Kubo just extending those inters a little bit. Hernandi has come into the pit lane. He had a diabolical race last time out, and he's going to look to have a little bit of a better one here today. Maybe some points on the table. KRT's first of the season. Can they manage it? It shouldn't be a weird thing to see a KRT in the points. They were so good at the end of last season, notably 3rd and 4th in the season 2 round 12 Brazilian Grand Prix. They had such a fast car, and they just didn't get the development right over the off season. They sunk like a stone, and they have nearly the worst car now. I mean, they're rock bottom of the Constructors' Championship. They haven't scored any points this season. The only team left to not score but Hernandi with his tokens today. 3 tokens spent for him. He's going to be looking to take some points, and as aforementioned, it could be a Hernandi versus Kamikaze fight if Kami can close that gap down, running in 10th place at the moment. He's overtaken Rito. Grandy's in to the pit lane at the moment and merges ahead of the lapped car of Goose. Maybe not for that long. Bluebell is still pretty close behind. It looks like Jake's also gone through on Vlad, who's taken his 3rd stop of the race. Kubo, only 2 stops for him so far. He's got a little bit of life left in those hards as we cross the threshold for the halfway point of the race. It is Jurist, Jake and Vlad, Sobel, then Kubo and Andries, and it's Bluebell and Grandy looking to have a proper scrap here through the chicanes. Can they do it? Bluebell takes a little bit of grass on that final corner. We're going to follow this battle until Bluebell can make that move on his soft compound tyre. The middle sector will be pretty good for him, but he gets a poor run through there, and that's not going to do him many favours whatsoever. That gap is now 8/10, a closer gap. Ahead is Andries chasing down Kubo, or at least it was, but Kubo is starting to get away a little bit though. Andries has a huge speed advantage down that straight, and we're going to have to surely see Kubo into the pits. Will he go in? Yes, he takes that nice wide line, and that completely throws off Andries, who now falls right back into the clutches of Grandy, the man who we saw being chased down earlier. He's right up to the back of Andries now. Can he try and make a move? Yes, he'll just get him through the double right-hander. Looks like we did have a fight on for the second position spot. It was Vlad, who hasn't pitted off his, well, still relatively fresh hards, but Jake, who has pitted for a fourth time. We'll have to see if Vlad can get the better of him through some strategy. That should be interesting to see. Jurist absolutely dominating out in the lead here, and you can understand why. We can pull up the team overview at the moment. BAV have 7 speed, 6 acceleration, 5 grip. That is, in every single field they are best or tied best, and undisputed best in the first 2, and only the turbo letting them down. But their index score overall is 1.2 clear of any competition, and sort of 1.7 clear of any sort of general runners in the upper midfield. You see the sort of the PRGs and the VLOs and BFXs of this world. They're just not even on the same level as the team from Britannia. So yeah, that's pretty interesting. Bluebell hunting down 8th spot at the moment. They're a lap down from Jurist, a lap up from Goose, and 2 laps up from Apple Amazing. We have a whole big pack of chaos here. But Andries, in all of it, is looking for 4 points if he can chase down Bluebell, who is on the exact same age and tyre compounds. This should be really interesting. Hanandi, of course, also in this battle. He's on significantly older hards, and Bluebell gets past him with relative ease. Hanandi, though, has a great run down that straight. It's going to just wait to make that move on Bluebell. Not if Andries rushes him, though, as they come all through the chicane 3 wide. Someone's going to end in tears here. It is Hanandi. Bluebell to an extent too, and Andries taking the inside line to that final corner, nails it, moves himself up into 7th position. Sobel chasing down Kubo, chasing down Grandy, who's in 4th. Little tyre rundown for you all. Jurist is on mediums, he'll be coming in from pretty soon. Jake on mediums that are slightly better in terms of tyre life, and Jurist, it looks like, lost a lot of time through that sector. So if we could see, we might see Jurist come into the pits and emerge behind his teammate. A sprinkle of rain could change the complexion of this race, but you back Jurist with his tokens to be able to make that time back up. He's still not into the pit lane, and he must have had some sort of conference with the final corner. Vlad still staying in touch with the BAVs, but it's looking pretty difficult for him. Grandy comes up to lap Rito, which must be a little bit embarrassing for him at his home Grand Prix. Julo also in 17th place. We might not see any point scorers if Rito cannot hang on to that 10th position single point. Kubo in 5th, Sobel chasing down at the moment. Andries in 7th, Bluebell 8th at the moment. That's Hanandi in 9th, pit crew 10th as Rito came in to the lane. US gap is really closing. I think he's having struggles with Hanandi, because if you look behind, Jake is it says here, absolutely closing down, and I'm not quite sure why that is. Is he slightly bugged? Has he taken these mediums much longer than they should be going? That could be a possibility. We saw it in France with the BFXs not thinking it worth it to just come in for new tyres, and a race win that was looking so confident for Jurist at the start could be totally thrown away if he doesn't come in soon off those tyres. Jake will be in pretty soon as well. Jurist surely pits this lap. He will do, and he forces his teammate off the track at the final corner. He is really getting his elbows out to try and win this one. That's not going to be well received by the team boss and teammate at all, and the rain comes! Jurist must hate rain. Vladinator is right behind. He needs to keep this gap to about a second, and then he can get a really good chance to have a run on him, but he's got his teammate and Hanandi in the way. And Jake needs to keep it all intact here too, but Urist, no sooner than he leaves the pit lane, is the rain announced, and this will be a really interesting battle. Urist had a 10-second gap, he had an entire pit stop in hand, but a really, really poor stint at the end of that medium running completely ruled him out there, and he comes into the pit box as the second BAV Vladinator, one of the last cars to pit, as well as is Hernandi a lap down and Anti 2 down. Everyone on the wet weather tyres, and Vladinator will retain third position. Fourth is Grandy, Sobel, and then Kubo and Andries, Bluebell, Hernandi. It's all pretty spaced out. The clouds are coming back. It's just going to be a brief stint on the wets, and this is going to be Urist's goal. He will need to put in qualifying, well, you can really say qualifying lap if it's, you know, I think Vlad has some real problems there, because I think he was well off the track and he needs to absolutely clear his teammate. But Urist will need to put in effect, qualifying lap after qualifying lap. Jake's lap time was a 35.90. Urist was slightly slower, but you can put that down to it being an out lap. You need to get up to speed, get those tyres up to temperature, the wet weather ones, and it's a 3-second gap still. This has played perfectly into Jake's hand. We don't know why Urist lost all that time on the mediums. I think maybe the AI slightly overestimate the lifespan of the medium tyre. Whoops. But regardless, it should be really interesting to see Urist on 2 tokens chase down Jake. Can Jake become can Jake make history, becoming the first ever driver to win a Sunday League virtual race while not spending a single token? That would be the purest sign of BAV's dominance in the sport this season, and why it cannot be allowed to continue next season. Have to equal out that grid a bit. But Grandy, meanwhile, has gotten his way past Vlad. We've got a proper fight for the podium. It was a bit of a slow burner in the midfield. We had some minor scraps between Sobel, Kubo, Andries, Bluebell, Hernandi. Kami's still running in 10th, by the way. But we've got a proper fight for the podium at the moment. These cars separated all by under a second, as is Urist nearly under a second from Jake. He is under a second now. Has he taken it too long? Jake will come out, of course, in complete clean air. This is the perfect bit of track for him to come out on, and his tyres are now gripped up. Urist comes through one of the grippiest parts of the track, the hairpin, with just nothing left there. The wet's so poor around some of these corners, and that final sector will be an absolute pain. He will be stomping on that brake pedal the entire way through. He does catch a break from Girouni, and he'll just have to wiggle and weave his way through, and he deals with the final sector well enough. Here comes Jake Brad. This has worked even better for him. He goes into the race lead. How far back will Urist be as he comes up to lap the Porsches? Urist emerges from the pit lane. He takes softs. Jake's on the hards. Jake is confident he can take these to the end for 9 laps, but Urist thinks the softs for 8 is the way to go, so we should see him making rapid gains. Meanwhile, Sobel still in 5th place, hunting down Vlad for 4th, Grandy in 3rd, up the track a little bit. This race was not that interesting in the mid part, but we have fights up and down the grid at the moment, and we have Jake versus the Porsches at the moment, and they're actually going to help him just maintain that racing line through the final corner. The gap has already closed. Urist's lap was a 32.77, very nearly his PB. Jake's was a 34.10. That is the dirty air, the wash from behind those Porsche Racing Group cars. And Grandy still looking to hang on for that first podium since Season 2. Vladinator for the first podium since Season 1, and Sobel has scored many a podium in recent times with PMP, oddly enough. Urist still looking to hunt down. He's gone past Julo. Can he clear Hetmenica? Hetmenica gave him some issues in the pit, gave him some issues last race, has a half weave at him here. Nothing really doing by the Dutch driver. Urist can see his teammate right ahead of him on the track. We have just over 7 laps left to race here, and Urist is all over the back of Jake. But will those softs go off at the end? Will the hards come into play? I would have thought 9 laps would be mediums territory. Urist blasts past his teammate down the straight and will take the race lead once again here at Zamość. He has had a really tough time in the last bit of stints. He had a very slow stint with a lot of time lost to back markers, then screwed by the rain, but on those softs he's able to pull himself ahead of his teammate. Jake just needs to keep Urist in touch. Can Amazing get through? You could argue Amazing probably dislikes Urist through how much he screws him over with the rain. But now he's not provided him any sort of challenge on the track. Jake needs to keep this gap close. it's pretty okay at the moment. Grandy, by the way, the reason he's running away from Vlad and Sobel is the soft. It's soft v hard for first and second, soft v hards for third, fourth and fifth. Ikoloski a lap down. Kubo cannot be counted out here either. Sobel still looking to chase down Vlad. We've got 5 laps left to run here, and Jake is now 2.4 seconds off his teammate. Sobel still looking at fourth if Grandy is too far away, but Grandy might need another stop. It's possible to see that. He's got to do 4 more laps on what are already relatively worn softs. This track is pretty long and can be very intensive on those tyres. Jake is still falling back, but not to a point where the gap is irredeemable. He just needs to clear these back markers. He's gone back past Hetmenica, who is sort of still hanging in there as well. Let's see how Uris tyres are doing. They may just hang on to the end if he's fast enough. It's all about your pace here. The tyre wear is completely based on time. Jake, though, has closed that gap back up. He had a bit of clean air. He's used it to his advantage, but it's opened again a little bit as Uris blasts down the very long, sort of the closest thing we really have to a back straight here, but it is the longest straight on the track as it goes down to that little boot in the bottom right. Uris makes a mistake through there. Will Jake be able to keep it more in order? He certainly does. He will get a little bit of traffic on the pit exit. Uris has nothing up the track from him, all the way up to Spuda in 18th place. Who is a while ahead of him in terms of physical track position. But Jake closing up here again. They may just provide us with some last lap drama. The forecast is for Jake to be able to attack him on the final lap if he can keep the lap times together. And he is looking pretty dangerous as they wind through the final sector. Will Uris again go wide? He does. That's a big slowdown. Jake doesn't take it quite as much. Uris last lap, 36.1. Jake 2 seconds faster. He's all the way round the outside of his teammate, going into turn 3. And on the penultimate lap of the Polish Grand Prix, it was the tyre choice that did not work to Uris' favour. The softs do not have enough life left in them. Grandy, who had a 6-second gap to the cars behind, has had that reduced all the way down to 2, now 1.3, as Sobel and Vlad on these hards are looking very, very strong for contention. For third place, can Sobel take a podium for BFX? He was so close to one in, I can't remember, but Vlad right behind him. This is going to be a huge battle for third place. The lead already looking pretty much wrapped up. Vlad is able to get through. He overtook Sobel down the straight, and with Grandy's mistake, he was able to pass him too. Grandy's so wide into that final corner. The softs have completely run out of grip. But as Jake comes into the final sector, we always pretty much thought it was going to be a BAV winning this race. Uris dominated so much of the race, but Jake will make pure history here, and Jake Brad crosses the line, wins the Polish Grand Prix, and is the first driver ever to win a Sunday League virtual race without spending a single token. Unbelievable. What an achievement for Jake Brad. What an achievement. Vlad Nater will come home, crawl home on his heart, and he will take his first podium since season 1. A great achievement, his first podium in about 23 races. Really, really good to see it, or 25. Grandy will take 5th place. The softs were not the call. Andres will take 6th, and there's a few cars pitting. I think they're well down the order, though. They've not got the finish line just in their sights yet. Jake is onto the wets. Yeah, we'll see how that goes. Kubo takes 7th position. His teammate Bluebell will be right behind him in 8th place. 2 tokens spent by Kubo, none spent by Bluebell, and Rito may just be in a little bit of jeopardy here. Comi looked really good for points earlier on, but the rain right at the end might affect a few of these drivers' finishing positions. Rito not in danger from Hetmenica, but the likes of Hanandi might be. From the cars behind, Jake win and fastest lap, 26 points for 0 tokens spent. BAV take a bow. Uris 2nd place, he'll be devastated with that. Vladinator 3rd, and Sobel in 4th for BFX. Grandy in 5th, another solid result for him. Andres will take 6th position, Kubo in 7th and Bluebell in 8th, Rito 9th, Hetmenica in 10th, Kamikaze and Hanandi spending 4 and 3 tokens today still cannot bring points to their respective teams that have struggled so much for points in past races. Pit Crew will take 13th for Thunder X, disappointing for him to spend 2 tokens and not manage much with that either. Goose will take 14th place, Anti in 15th, and it's Julo and Jaruni, Spuda, Ikoloski and Apple Amazing finishes dead last. that's all for the Polish Grand Prix. Really, really exciting end to a race that was always boiling up for it. Lots of fighting in the mid-pack in a very unique layout, leading to a lot of pretty funky racing. We'll see you next time at Istanbul. Should be a really fascinating race to do that one. But until then, bye-bye.